Buena gente, en esta ocasión a un pequeño directo de YouTube. Sencillamente quería hacer algo así no muy imprevisto porque estaba mirando lo que es el Discord de Exoborne y bueno, decían que supuestamente si podíamos hacer un videito, lo que sea. Yo todavía tuve unos problemas en la casa de plaga y demás, ahora ando en otra casa y demás. Y dije, bueno, vamos a hacerle el videito de reacción. Que dicen que, bueno, si vos lo mandar en el formulario y demás, te dan una clave de acceso. Aunque yo creo que me la van a dar igual, porque la pedí por Esquina hace bastantes meses. Pero por si acaso lo hacemos, sencillamente. Aunque personalmente, o sea, si vamos a una opinión personal, yo creo que no deberían hacer esto con los creadores. O sea, los creadores deberían darle entrada sí o sí. No deberían estar ahí diciendo, hagan un video a ver si se pueden ganar una clave, porque no me parece. Porque ya de por sí estamos haciendo propaganda gratis y tendremos que tener asegurado el acceso al juego, esencialmente. Pero bueno, lo quisieron hacer así. Vamos a mirar el tema de lo que es los videos que hay. Voy a empezar mirando el de la PlayStation, es el último. Este vendría a ser el que hicieron el otro día, sencillamente, que hablaban un poco pues sencillamente de lo que tenía, de lo que tiene el juego y demás. O sea, vamos a hacer como una pequeña reacción, que al fin y al cabo es eso lo que estaban pidiendo. Déjenme bajar un poco la música, ahí al mínimo. Que estaba pensando poner música sin copyright, pero ya me da igual. Si se lo monetiza o no lo monetiza.
Are what you carry. So basically your power and your playstyle is completely dependent on your loadout. And if you die, you lose everything.
Obviamente, como cualquier extraction.
My name is Pet Mannerfelt and I'm the creative director for Exoborne at Sharp.
Yeah.
We have 3 different X-Rig platforms. They almost act as classes, especially when
comento, gente, porque iré comentando más o menos lo que voy haciendo y lo que voy entendiendo. Exoborne, la gente de Living Infinite está detrás, ¿no es cierto? Que personalmente, bueno, no sé, ellos no lo administran en sí, son como el publisher, pero Delta Force, en ese sentido, para mí fue un fracaso en el sentido de que se llenó de cheto y todo, fue un desastre. Yo lo tuve que dejar jugar porque era un despropósito y tampoco dejaba muy buenos números. Vamos a ver qué onda con Exoborne. Esta es la primera beta, no sé realmente cuándo sale el juego, pero todos estos días, todo este mes van a estar saliendo diferentes cositas en torno a lo que es extracción y yo iré subiendo. O sea, tenemos un Early Access el 12 y más betas en la Steam Fest, el del 20 para arriba, y bueno, iremos probando y trayendo, porque digamos quiero centrar el canal en lo que es todo lo que es juego de extracción, como ya lo había comentado muchas veces.
Start modifying them and really making a specialization out of them. So we have the Kodiak, it's big and heavy and it's almost tankish depending on
ya, o sea que hay clases, ¿no?
You can customize it to wear really big heavy weapons. So that's the big heavy platform we have.
Yeah.
Then you have the Kestrel. It's small and nimble. It can even hover in the air, so it's great if you want to be up in the sky, maybe up in tornadoes and be able to move quickly. Then we have the Viper, and it's more stealthy, I would say, but it's also a jack of all trades, so they're quite different once you get There's a lot of tactical options you get with all the abilities you have and the synergies with the force of nature. So when there's a strong wind and a tornado, if you're using the Kestrel X-Rig, you can, for example, hover in the air and be up in a tornado and use that and snipe people on the ground. One of the great examples is if you equip, for example, a Molotov cocktail or any other ability that has a connection with fire. You can create these small fires that create updrafts that you then can use with your parachute to fly into enemies. I usually play the game in a quite different way. If I see that there's a storm coming or maybe a tornado, I usually try to use the wind to go to maybe a high-risk location quite far away to be able to scavenge and find something really valuable. And of course, when there's rain, I can't really use my parachute very effectively. And when there's fog, there's enemies quite difficult enemies spawning in the world, which means that I have to adapt my play style to be able to kill them. If I play with a confident group, we have good gear, then I play very aggressively. I try to push the enemies a lot. I probably go for shorter range weapons. Maybe I open up with sniper rifle, but I try to close the gap to my enemies and actually kill them head on. If I play alone, I'm much more kind of like to play with snipers. Be careful, hide a lot, and if I see the opportunity, I go for the kill.
Una disculpa, gente. Estoy viendo que está tapando la interfaz. Un segundito. Quitamos esto. Ahí no taparía más los subtítulos, ¿no? Creo que lo otro... Creo que no lo alcanzo a tapar. Va, para gente que lo mira en español,
I might actually decide to not engage in PvP at all if I'm alone. There are two things we're looking for when it comes to the playtest we do in February. One is, of course, that we want to work with the community to improve the game. It's important for us to make a game that people love, and the only way to do that is to work with the people that will play the game. That's how to improve it. We have had some smaller tests before this one, and we've learned so much interesting things. In one of the first playtests we did, we discovered that our looting wasn't working as we wanted it to. We got some quite strong feedback on how it worked. So since then we have changed a lot of things. We have changed what kind of items we have in the world, how they're placed, in what kind of landmarks it is. We have changed the entire looting mechanic. We have even changed the inventory. Huge change based on feedback from the community already.
Bueno, dice que escucharon la comunidad, eso es bueno.
In Exoborne, you are what you carry. Your power and playstyle depends on your loadout. If you want to do a lot of damage, you have a big gun. If you want to do more, you have to customize it. You need...
O sea que solamente es con lo que tengo equipado. No, no puedo, ¿cómo se dice? No puedo, o sea, no puedo tener habilidades o algo así.
Attachments. And if you die, you lose it, but you don't only lose your weapons, you also lose your exo rig. But since we want players to be able to play together, you have a baseline exo. If you don't have an exo, you have the baseline. And you can basically have the grappling hook just to be able to keep up with your team. So you're never without the baseline exo, even if you die.
Ya, bien. Eso es bueno.
We have different maps with different biomes. We have one of the maps has a fairly big open world. It's completely transformed by the force of nature. Then we have another map that's smaller. It's a smaller town. And that's very different when it comes to gameplay experience. And I think what makes this even more different is the risk versus reward level. The first map has much lower risk versus reward compared to the second one, which means that it plays fairly different. You have bigger distances between players, and the rewards, of course, are lower. The team has worked on the game for a couple of years, and we have loads of fun every time we do playtest. And I really do hope that everyone who's playing the game has as much fun as we do when we play it at the studio. And see you all in Colton County.
Bueno.
We are rolling.
Let's go for it, and then we do it all again. And again. And again. Yes, I made it.
No le salía todo, que hacerlo varias veces. Yeah. Vamos a subir la calidad, gente. El chiste que yo siempre hago con el tema de los juegos que empiezan por Exo, creo que es muy fácil de darse cuenta, ¿no? Exo, Bor. Si le dicen agregar una S, hubiesen vendido mucho. Ahí va.
We're about to do the biggest test we've ever done. Many players around the world all playing at the same time. Incredibly nerve-wracking, exciting for us. But how can we make the best version of Exoborne? And these kind of tests that we're doing, this is how we find that way. Hi, I'm Brindley Gibson. I'm the executive producer for Shark Mob. Exoborne is a tactical open-world extraction shooter, and it's set in this apocalyptic world that's been turned upside down by a climate disaster. And it's a world that's recognizable to you. It's set in America in a kind of made-up place called Colton County. It's recognizable but it's changed. It sort of confounds your expectations. Imagine like someone's picked up the world, turned it upside down and just dumped it on the floor. Exoborne has changed a lot as a game through the development process. We always had extraction as a key part. We always had extraordinary abilities, great movement in the game. But say something like the Exo rigs is something that really came from the development process. We had this destroyed world, so then we realized, well, we need a way to be able to move around in this kind of crazy place with loads of verticality and interesting obstacles. And that was sort of the natural evolution, was to give the players these extraordinary powers that are really fun, both for combat but also for movement too. So we're now at a point with the game where we can actually have real people play the game, and we listen to their feedback. So sometimes when you're testing the game with different real players, you learn things that you're not necessarily happy about, but they are true. When you keep hearing the same piece of feedback again and again, there's probably something you need to look at with your game. And one of the things that we found that needed to alter was actually how we did looting and how we had inventory.
Eso lo comentaron
It was
en el
actually a
anterior.
fundamental change that we had to make. So it was a big decision for us as a development team to sort of take a moment, step back and think, what's the right route forward for this? You know, we're hearing there's something not quite right. Do we try and fix that or go another way? And ultimately, we actually decided to completely change how we do looting, how we do inventory management in the game. And that's a long process. It's tough to do, it's hard for the developers, but we're really happy with now where we've got to with it. And we think it was absolutely the right decision to make that kind of change based on the feedback we were getting from users. So with the big test that is coming up right now in February, we have almost a complete feature set there. This is where we can really put the finishing touches into how we're going to make the game and then release it into the world. There can be surprises. So we have a war room. We have this whole team of people who are absolutely focused on the game going live for a test. So we can immediately react, talk to people and fix any problems that we find. But we do actually have a mantra in the studio, which is we want to make a game that has PvP for everyone. It's still a hardcore game. It's still about high risk, high reward, absolutely. But we want to smooth off some of the rough edges and find other ways that we can help players move forward the game. So we have structure in our game. You know, if you're not sure what to do, you can just follow what the game's instructing you with missions and objectives to go after. We have a story, we have a narrative that you can follow. Even if
Una cosa que quiero comentar que es positiva, como hicieron el tema de los creadores y todo eso, es el tema de la cantidad de seguidores o lo que sea que te piden para poder entrar al programa. Están pidiendo 100, me parece, o algo así. Lo cual me parece bien, porque en el caso de Delta Force estaban pidiendo 1000, una cosa exagerada. Estamos hablando de que hay gente que levanta media 20, 30, 50, lo que sea, y no llegan a los 1000 seguidores. Y eso me gustó. Yo creo que Delta Force se fumaron un porro, sencillamente, porque realmente lo que estaban pidiendo era mucho, era demasiado, sencillamente. Y si una persona de un día por otro llega a tener 1000 seguidores, que se infló con bots o algo así, yo trato de hacer las cosas bien, trato de hacer las cosas de forma legal y no hace nada de esas tonterías. Así que, pues eso, gente. Solo quería comentar.
if you fail in a session, you might have also achieved these out of session achievements, and that can give you extra rewards and bonuses. So in this way, we're finding ways to keep people playing the game. So although in a session, in the short term, you can lose everything, in the long term, you're always going to be progressing and moving forward in the game.
Bueno, ahí habló de progresión, así que supongo que hay skill o algo que va mejor.
I've made many games over my career, and each game is different, and it teaches you something new about development, about the team you're working with, maybe even about the genre that you're trying to work with and explore. With Exoborne, the big learning for me is how soon you can get people playing the game. It's been a real benefit for us to have real players come in. And in the past, you could take a game all the way.
Otra cosa que quería comentar, que se me hace que el juego va a ser un poquitín pesado en el tema a gráficos, por lo que pintan, lo que se ve en los videos, pero bueno, luego vamos a ver. Por ejemplo, a mí estaban diciendo que el Civilization que salió hace poco era pesado supuestamente, pero hasta donde yo lo probé es más liviano que esta mierda que habían sacado lo de Microsoft, por dar un ejemplo sencillamente. El ARA era el ARA. Por eso le digo, o sea, vamos a ver qué tal es el rendimiento, porque lo que más te afecta principalmente es al momento del PvP, justamente que se trabe, que no vaya bien fluido. Tengo 32 GB de RAM y una 460, sencillamente. Mi microprocesador es un poco más chico de lo que debería, pero en rango general tengo recursos para correr cualquier juego que sea. Y no solo correrlo, sino jugarlo de gráfico alto para arriba.
To release before anyone else saw it. And now we can have people play very, very early on, even quite rough prototypes, to kind of understand what's an interesting direction to explore. So like more testing, earlier.
Una cosa que he notado la diferencia, que yo agrego más interfaces o algo así en el tema de los directos y no es como antes que me mataba la PC, ahora realmente va mucho mejor con esos 32 GB de RAM y la placa de
On, it's really great. I mean, this is the most tested game I've ever made, and it's really helped us in our development process.
Aparte el Nvidia tiene el sistema del micrófono para poner los filtros, está muy bien. Bueno gente, eso sería pues los dos videitos que me parecieron más interesantes de lo que es pues de lo que estuve viendo sencillamente. La verdad que lo veo bien, lo veo bastante bien al juego en ese sentido. Y vamos a ver si realmente da o no da resultado. Porque digamos que lo que es la competencia está bastante fuerte en el tema de la extracción. Pero es al mismo tiempo, cuantos más extracción salgan, pues mejor. Porque al haber más competencia, pues sencillamente las empresas se molestan más en hacer mejores cosas. Yo creo que cuando salió Delta Force no tenía ni un competidor y creo que por eso tal vez no hicieron tan bien las cosas. Pero vamos a ver qué onda con este juego. Así que gente, sería todo. Nos estamos viendo en un próximo directo de Play. Salute. Bosta.